Hi, just to recap for a few of you that are just joining in. So today we're going to go over APIs and then a little bit of details on our final project. So basically API is a way for computers to communicate with each other. And in this case, we're going to be using APIs in Python. Just like a better understanding of APIs, basically, you're going to be asking a host, which is on a server, and servers are like these big devices of computers that basically accept and respond to requests made over a network. And you're going to ask it for some data, and it's going to get back at you with some data. This is really useful if you want to work with like for example, if you have a Google Maps or Apple Maps, and you want to get somewhere, your phone can't compute all the different data points and everything to find the most optimal path for you to travel, right? So what happens is when you type in the data and press enter on your phone, it asks or it taps into Google's server, and it just asks for the specific data depending on and it's catered towards obviously your location and your destination, right? And it gets back to you all through an API. So when you're communicating to the server at Google, when you're using Google Maps, you use an API, and then it responds back with an API. Um, they all have these big names. API, it's called an application program interface, but you really don't need to know that. You just need to know that it's just a way for computers to like communicate with each other. So to do that in Python, we're going to use a library called requests, which basically simplifies all the processes for us, but just like so we just have to write a few lines of code. Um, so basically, what's going to happen is we're going to use a URL, like a web URL, specific for APIs, and that helps us identify which server we're going to get a data from and what a request for the data is, right? We're going to put that inside of request.get, which is going to tap into that server and ask for the specific details, and it's going to give us a response. And that response is we're going to store that into a variable called response, which is really convenient. After that, we're going to check if the response is successful. So if you've ever opened like a website and it was like down and it said error 404, that's an error code for saying that like the website is like down, like the server's down. There's a bunch of different status codes, but you don't need to know all of them. 200 means that the website was successful, connected to the rest of everything was good. Was a-okay. So in that case, we're going to convert the response. We're going to do .json. You don't really know why, but there's a lot of different data types that we can get back when we make an API request. And one of those types happens to be a JSON type. And this is like one of the most commonly used types for APIs. So by running that JSON, using this is from the request library, it's going to convert the response into something more usable for us. And we're going to put that into a variable called data. And then obviously with the data, we could do a bunch of stuff. And then one of them is printing all the data. So we're going to apply this by making a weather app. And to do that, I need everyone to make an account on openweathermap.org. This is the server we're going to be using to tap into to get our weather data from. So once you have made an account for openweathermap.org, it should look like this one. And there should be like a register or something button here. Just type done in the chat. When most of you guys have done it, I'll move forward. Okay, looks like most of you guys are done. If you are in the process and want me to wait, you can always type in the chat. If you have any questions also, feel free to ask in the chat as well. Anyways, moving on. So it doesn't have to be open weather map. There's a bunch of different weather APIs for free. There's like APIs for like COVID data, APIs for like hospital data, APIs for like pretty much anything you can like think of. But for today, we're going to use weather API, the open weather map API, because it's pretty easy to use. So I'm going to kind of go through the process that you'll usually go through if you're not using open weather map, right? Because maybe you want to use this for like your final project or whatever. So usually all APIs have a doc somewhere. This is like a documentation, and it's usually like pretty simple. So we're going to just go with the current weather data. The other ones, like some of them are paid. Like this one, you need a monthly subscription. So, but we don't really need them, right? So we're going to click on API doc. As you can see here, this one says they have JSON, XML, all these different formats, right? Like I talked about, we're going to be working with the JSON type. It's like the most universal. So that's like the only one you really need to know. So if you click on API doc, it's going to always have something like this. It's going to have some kind of like really complex URL that might scare you, but trust me, it's not that scary. So what's going to happen is basically this is the URL I talked about. So if you go back to the slides, also if you guys want to see the slides, I'll share that with you guys right now so you guys can follow. Forgot to do that. I'll put it in the chat and I'll post it in the Discord later as well. But continuing on, it's going to have this URL. So if you guys remember from the slides, when we talk to a server, we're going to use a URL to identify which host and then what, especially like specifically what data we need. So what this is doing is, if you kind of want to dive into it, this is the host or server that we're going to go into, and then after the question mark, you don't need to know this, but this is like kind of cool. It's like the specific type of request we're asking for, right? So in this case, we're asking what's like the latitude and what's the longitude, and then what's like the API key. I briefly went over the API key, but this is basically a way of verifying that I'm like a registered user, or like verifying I'm not just a random person trying to get some random data. For what it is, this is not a big deal, but for like more private data, maybe with like you have like a database in Google or something that you want to access data from, having an API key is really important and usually is required. It's kind of like when you're at an ATM and you want to get some money, but you have to put in a password. That password is like an API key. Like your phone password is also an API key, in a way, right? So if you don't know, latitude and longitude are just like a coordinate system, like on Earth, like on our planet, right? To identify specifically where you are. Like if I search up my latitude, and I think like it works in Google. It should, or maybe I could go on like this one. So right now I'm in Riverside, California. Maybe that works. Yeah, and this is my latitude and longitude. It's just like the like coordinate thingies for identifying where you are. Basically this is saying there's the required one and the optional ones. So the required one's a latitude and longitude, and we need the API key, right? I'm pretty sure usually if you scroll down, there's other options too. But you can go with that, but I'm specifically looking for ways for us to use it. Okay, so like this one says city, that name. This one might be a little bit better. Yeah, so another way we could do this is by using this city name and then also our API key, right? So we're going to use this. I'll put the link to this one if you can't find it in the chat as well. And we're going to copy this, and we're going to make a new replit as well. Use this as a URL. And our URL is always going to be a string, so make sure to put those in quotations. All right. Also, I forgot to tell you guys to make a replit, so please get that done as well. I'll give you guys like a couple minutes. You guys can type done in chat if you want, so I know when to move on. And then one more thing, when you make a file, make sure you import requests. That's the library we're going to be using to kind of speed run this API lesson. I'll give a few more moments for you guys to catch up. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask in chat. I'll keep it open. Or you guys can always unmute as well. Can it be any API call? Oh, like on the open web. Okay, yeah. If you guys want to try another API call, feel free to. I would recommend you guys don't like get the paid ones, because like some of them are crazy expensive. But yeah, feel free to if you want to try like an hourly forecast or daily forecast, feel free to try those as well. But then some of them might be different, so you might get into some errors, but I'll stay back to answer some questions. But if you guys don't have a preference, go with the current weather data. That's the one I'm gonna go with. So you won't have any problems if you use that one. In large scale, yeah, I'm sorry. I'll zoom in. Is that a little better? Okay, and I'll also zoom in the replit one as well. I'm sorry. There you go. And this one as well. Okay. Okay, so once you have the a file with your import request and then the URL as a string, we need to get our API key. So if you can see here, one of the parameters we need is the API key. So if you click on this is my profile thingy profile, and click on my API keys, you should have a API key. If you don't, then put like a name, my new key 123. And then now I get a new one. You could use any of them. Either one works. So all you're gonna do is you're just going to, oops, not this. Copy it like this. Control C on Windows, Command C on Mac. And then I'm going to create a new variable. I'm just going to call it API key. You don't need to create a variable. You could just, what you can do is you could delete this and put that in here, if you know what I'm saying. So you don't have to do all the hassle. But in case, like, I'll just leave as API key so you guys can, I'll post this in the Discord so you guys can just mess around with it later as well. Okay, was everyone able to find their API keys? If you guys don't want to like type, there's like a reaction thingy. Okay. Yes, Robert, do you have a question? Do you keep the city name blank? Yes, we'll get to that. All right. So we have one problem so far. If you guys know, we need to put our API key in here and we need to get a city name, right? Let's deal with the API key first. So if you want to make this like more, okay, do you guys have a question, Sophie and, okay, or those just reactions? Okay, where do we, okay, so to find the API key, you're going to first make sure you have an account in Open Weather Map. You're going to click on your profile thing and then it should say my API keys. If none of them show here, here, let me zoom in a little. You're going to click create key, just put something random. Yeah, and then generate and then copy this and then make it a new variable, right? Oh, yeah, you're good. Okay, okay, if you guys raise your hand, I'll just consider it as like you're done with whatever section we're on. Okay, continuing on. So instead of having to copy this, I'm going to delete this, and then end the string there. And then if you guys remember, we could add strings together, right? So I'm going to use that right now. So basically what's going to happen is instead of that little string, we don't want that string there. So for reference, I don't want this, right? Because this isn't part of the request. This is just like an indication from, oops, where was it? I'm sorry. It's just an indication from somewhere here. Oh my gosh. Oops. I think it was. Oh wait, actually I put it in the chat, so I'll find it. If you guys go back to the document I sent you guys earlier. So if you guys look at the API call, this is like every API like website has a document on how to use it. It's always gonna have this kind of format. So this is saying insert the city name here, insert the API key here. Don't actually use this as part of the request. So I don't want this, right? I want to, instead of having this here, I want the API key that I pasted above. I want this to go here. So I'm gonna delete this and add the API key. We also don't want city name, right? So what I'm going to do is before we even start anything, I'm going to use the input function that we talked about earlier. So city name equals input, enter a city name. And this is just kind of what we've been doing, right? You ask for a city name, you get a city name. Yeah, pretty straightforward. And similarly, I'm going to delete this part here. I'll make this a little wider. I don't want this. I want this to be separate. Yeah, I'll show you what I'm doing. So instead of having the city name here, I'm going to delete this. And then in between here, I'm going to put the city. Right, so now we have a URL that gets the input city name and then also puts the API key. Good? Okay. Oh, we don't need this here. This can go somewhere else. Can you guys still see my screen? Where is it? Okay, sounds good. Okay, so from here, once we have our URL, we're finally going to make a request to the API thingy. To do that, we're going to, as shown before, do responses or response equals requests dot get, and we're going to pass in a URL. As explained before, we're just using the requests library, and then we're asking them here, here's the thingy I want from the server, and then we're going to store all that into a response. So if you guys want, if you guys want to see what's happening when I run this is, what I can do is, if you make a separate string here just to see what's happening, instead of city name, I'm going to just type in a city. Like I could put Los Angeles, I think like that, and then an API key, right? And if I paste this into Google, oops, maybe there is a space. I'm sorry, I don't know the format that they want. Yeah, so basically when you run this, this is what the this line is doing. It's accessing, it's searching up basically, not on Google, but it's accessing the internet. Here, what's on the specific site or URL. And then when we ask it and give it the right API key, just to verify that I'm a registered user with Open Weather Map, that whatever, it's saying, okay, go to Open Weather Map, he's a user, and then the request we're gonna ask for is the weather at Los Angeles, and this is the data, and it's in the JSON format. So that's why we need to use .json to kind of make it a lot easier to use. If you could kind of read this, right? Like this, like the coordinate. This is clear, clear skies, and there's like an icon for it, I guess. It feels, I don't know worse. Okay, like the minimum temperatures, and it's all in Kelvin right now. Okay, kind of cool, I think, right? So moving on, we're going to check that the response was successful, and to that, we're going to check the status code. I believe it's like that. Check that it's equal to 200. If it is, then we're going to do the data equals response.json to kind of unpack it, right? So instead of having all this, we're gonna, by running .json, it's going to structure this, and then I'll show you how that works later. To be a bit more specific, right now it's all like parentheses inside of or like not like brackets instead of the curly brackets instead of whatever, right? It's going to just make all this into a 2D list, so it's much more accessible. I think like a 3D 2D list, like it's going to be lists inside of list, like stacked lists in Python, so it's much easier to use. You don't need to know the details, you just need to know how to access the data. So what's going to happen is if I go to here, there's like, okay, so it's saying, okay, so if two, what is it? Okay, so what's going to happen is to access the different parts of this data, is you can see that it's in different subsections, right? So inside of weather is all this until the end of the bracket, and inside of that is all this data, right? Similarly, inside of main is all this. Right now, the only thing that we want for this specific case is we want the temperature. And to get that, what's going to happen is we need to find where the temperature is, right? And you can see once I run this, it's in main. And inside of main, it's just called temp, right? Kind of interesting. And you might think it's in weather, but it's not, because after weather ends, there's a comma. They're all like in like the same level. So if you guys like, it's kind of like you have like something, wait, actually, let me zoom in so you guys can see better. There you go, that's a lot better, I'm sorry. So basically this is like the data we get when we run the URL. And what's happening is we want to access or is it temperature? And to access it, we need to find where it is relative to everything else. So how this JSON thing works is there's one thing, and then there's a colon, and then there's like all the details for it, and there's comma, and then blah blah blah, right? All that, and then the things like chord and weather, they're in like the same level. So in a list, they'll all just be like elements next to each other. So we can see that there's weather, and then after there's base, and then there's main. So just look at the commas, and we can see temp is in the main section. So to access it, we go into main, and then we ask for temp, and then we get 302. This is in Kelvin, not Celsius. And there's a way to convert it later. I'll show you. So this is a handful, but what's happening is when I run .json, it's going to convert all this nonsense into a structured set of lists. So all I have to do is do temp, or you could do temperature. This is a variable, so you can name it whatever, is equal to data. And remember, we want to go to main because that's like that's the first level we go into, and then the second level is temp. Any questions? So I have main and then temp. Oops. And that should get me the temperature. Any questions? I'll keep the chat open. And what I can do is I can print this temperature. Let's see if it works. Yep, 302. Another thing you can do is you could put an else statement, and you can say if the status code isn't the thingy, you could put error, try again, something like that. What I can do with this is, since there's so much other JSON data, I can access other stuff as well. So I can like access humidity. So if I do main humidity, let's do another one here. So like humidity equals the same thing, but instead of tap, we're going to tap into humidity. And then what else can we tap into? Let's see what's interesting. Also, like the times, these are not in just 24-hour clocks. And if you just put it in Google, it'll give you like the conversion. I forgot what the exact units are. But here, I'm pretty sure to convert it into Celsius instead, it says one of the units is optional, right? So what's happening is this is also might be a little confusing. But you separate each one with the and, I believe. So here I can do, and units, was it unit or units? Units equals, oh my gosh. Let's do imperial, right? Imperial. And then another and, there you go. And then what this does is, where's temperature? Now it's in Fahrenheit. We can also add this small line. I don't know if you guys can, you guys probably can't see the URL. What I did is I added this in the middle, so it makes this. If you guys want to try yourself. So to show better, there's like a bunch of different little things you can add, and when you add them, you just add an n, not an n, like an ampersand, like the and symbol at the end. So for like this one, you know how there's like and this equals this, we could put another one like and units. I want to set it to imperial since we're in the US. And units equals this. Equals imperial. If you want to do metric, we can do metric as well. And everything else should stay the same. So I can still add like Los Angeles. And now it gives me a temperature in Fahrenheit. I can also print the humidity as well, since that's something we decided to tap into. That's the temperature, that's the humidity. I don't know what the units for humidity are. But that's the end of the thing on APIs. Do you guys have any questions? Also, the code should be on the slides. If you guys want to, here, let me bring the slides back. Yeah, it should be here. This has also description thingy, but everything else should be the same. Make sure to indent these. Any questions in the chat, or you guys can raise your hands. If not, that's it for the APIs today. A few things, I guess, like announcements. So next week is going to be our last week for CS1, and instead of having classes, it's going to be kind of chill, a bit more intensive though. You guys will be doing a final project. So the final project, it'll be in teams of 2 to 4, and each team will have a mentor, and these will be people that are pretty experienced. Most of them have like published research. They've kind of know what they're doing, right? So they can help you a lot with building your final project. And you're going to meet with them same time, but instead of 6 to 7, it'll be either 6 to 6:30, or 6:30 to 7, depending on just who your mentor is, because these mentors will have like 2 to 3 different teams that they're working with, right? And you're free to ask them questions anytime. And then well, okay, so basically to describe the final project, it's kind of going to be like a cumulative project of everything that you guys have learned. It's going to be centered on healthcare. So you guys can just build anything that addresses some kind of solution in the health field. Doesn't have to be anything like super big. It could be kind of, it could, just has to be something that works, and something you're kind of interested about. And it could be something out of your comfort zone as well. So it could be slightly hard, which is why we have a mentor to guide you through it. Like an example project is like maybe finding a way to, I don't know, identify different things using like different medical scenarios using the machine learning thing, or using like the API thing we learned to, right, to identify if a day is too hot for you to go out so you don't get sunburned. It's pretty flexible. What's going to happen with the final project, and which the reason why we want you guys to pursue this, is because first you're going to enter it into a hackathon that we're running. Hackathons are basically like short, like 3 to 5 day events where you just kind of code a whole project, right? And then like the winners get different prizes. And the judges are all going to be CS1 members, and we all know all the hard work you guys have put in. So we'll always keep that in mind as we're judging your projects as well. If you guys want to look at the hackathon, the website for it is csyhacks.org. I think my computer's a little glitchy. If you guys want to check it out, it's here. I need everyone to register for the hackathon right now before you guys forget. If you click on register now, it's going to open like the dev post, which is a site where a bunch of hackathons take place. And we have a bunch of prizes that we've collected for you guys. So you guys want to read through the prizes, they're here, but there's a lot of prizes. Just a quick recap on the hackathon. There's going to be 3 divisions. There's going to be a beginner hackathon, or novice hackathon, and an advanced hackathon, and then also an ideathon. The beginner hackathon is the one you guys are going to be entering in. The advanced hackathon is for people with like 1+ years of computer like coding experience that are like pretty experienced in hackathons as well. The ideathon, you don't need any requirements. Basically what you're doing is you're thinking of a solution for a problem in healthcare, and pitching that idea. If you guys want to enter the hackathon as well, I would highly suggest you do, because you guys will be, which brings me on to the second point, which is you're going to write a kind of brief summary on what you did with your final project. It's not going to be like a 5-paragraph essay or anything. It'll just be like a few paragraphs, just summarizing what you did. And then what's going to happen with this, you're going to be able to publish it on the Science Times. And if you guys aren't familiar with publications, this is pretty big. Being able to publish a project that you did on an article, it's really helpful just for like your resume, and also for like for college applications, if that's something that you're working towards. What if I have several years of coding experience but not with Python? That's fine. All the students in CS1 are encouraged, and you guys should all apply through for the beginner section for the hackathon. You guys can all sign up here on the dev posts. I'll put a link in the chat as well. If you click on register now, it opens the same page as well. Before you guys leave. And you guys can do that while I'm talking. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. So a final project timeline. So the first thing you guys need to do is you guys need to find a team. If you have someone in mind, let me know right now. If not, I can randomly group you guys and put you guys in random groups. If you guys have any preferences with who you want to partner up with or get in a team with, please put their names in the chat right now. And then also this link will be on the Discord. But what's going to happen is by tomorrow night, you guys need to find a team and then some kind of project idea. It's not going to ask you for the whole rundown of the project, just something like a topic that you're going to be focusing on, like a short 2 to 3 sentence description. And then it'll just be a Google form. Morning President, I'm partnered with this. Okay, yeah, I'll make sure to do that. Okay. Um, after you guys, so that's the first thing. And you guys need to get that done by Saturday night. And so what's going to happen is the mentors will be looking through and finding project ideas that they can help a lot with. So for example, if you want to do something in machine learning, right? And then a few of our TAs are really experienced in machine learning, then they'll find you and then they'll contact you. And then what's going to happen is on Monday, by Mondays at 6, you're going to have a mentor that contacted you, and you'll have a meeting set up. It'll be from, I wrote this wrong, it'll be from 6 to either 6 to 6:30 or 6:30 to 7, depending on your mentor and your schedule. And what's the first thing you're going to do is you're going to finalize your project idea, and then they'll give you a few places to start so you can get started on coding your project. And this doesn't have to be anything super big, so you'll be able to finish like the projects in like 3 days, in the 3 days, right? Like 3 days. Wednesday you're gonna have a progress check, and by then your project should be mostly functional and mostly done. And you're gonna get started on writing like the paper, just a few paragraphs, but it's like a more formal way of saying it, right? And by Friday you're gonna have your final meeting with your mentor, and your project should be finished by then. And then they'll also help you finish up if there's any like small details they have that you need help with. They'll help you with that then. And they'll also help you with finally like revising and editing your paper, which is like a few paragraphs to get published on the Science Times. Any questions? I know that was like a pretty quick rundown, but this Google form link, it looks like this. So basically just put like your project title and then just a quick description and then your team members' names. If you guys don't have any preferences on who you partner up with, you guys will be placed in just like a Discord channel with your team members, and you guys will be able to work on this together. If you guys have any preference for anything, please, yeah, I know Caitlin did. If everyone else does, please let me know. And all the resources that I've talked about will be posted on Discord soon. Any questions about today's class, last class, or this, or what was it, or on the final project? If not, since it's the final class, can I ask everyone to turn their cameras on so we can take a quick, I guess, class picture of our last class? And then there's also a quick closing ceremony in 10 minutes, and the link should be on Discord. So please join that after as well. We're going to go over certificates and also possible opportunities for you guys to pursue with CS1 in the future. But that is the end of the of today's presentation. All right. Thanks for coming in, guys. You guys are all free to go. All right. Actually, I'll take a class picture here. Everyone turn their cameras on for a second. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1. All right, sounds good. All right, I'll see you guys in the closing ceremony. If you have any questions, I'll stick around for a second as well.